Welcome back to Just Another Football Podcast. Before we start, we obviously wanted to acknowledge and give condolences to Cristiano Ronaldo on the loss of his baby boy. And we hope that the birth of his daughter is giving him some closure and positive thoughts during a very harrowing time, of course. Before we start, we wanted to kind of acknowledge that and wish him all the strength and power to get through this very difficult time. On with the show. Hello and welcome back to Just Another Football Podcast. Oh my days. Okay, so before we start with Liverpool are massive and are on for a quadruple and everything like that, just to give you a heads up about how this episode is going to go, because it's going to be a little bit different. I was joined yesterday, Monday night, so we're recording on Tuesday night as we speak. I was joined on Monday night by Harry and George. So originally we recorded on Monday, and then I was gonna come on, record a little bit about Liverpool Man United, and then today I thought I can't upload the episode without doing a proper bit about this game, because it was insane. It was mental. It was crazy. We'll be talking about that first, and then we will go to Harry and George and myself to discuss the FA Cup semi-final results. The Liverpool-Man City game remains fascinating because of the context of last week and because of the result this week and how the first half went particularly. And Chelsea obviously won against Crystal Palace. We have another Just Another Football Podcast derby on our hands and another cup final in the same season within 2 months. Incredible. So we'll discuss all of that. And Harry has a little bit of a rant about Mikel Arteta. So look forward to that. So Liverpool Man United, FA Cup draws, FA Cup results rather, and then the rant. With that, on with the show. Liverpool 4, Manchester United 0. I guess I'll start with Man United because the talking points are more now, because they started with an entirely different formation to what they usually do. Phil Jones played his third game in 3 years. Victor Lindelof started on the right hand side of a back three, Harry Maguire on the left, Diogo Dalot left wing back, Aaron Wan-Bissaka right wing back. Now I understand the Aaron Wan-Bissaka decision on the right wing back because he's up against Luis Diaz and he's the most competent fullback / wing back apparently defensively. Diogo Dalot on the right. You have Alex Telles and you have Diogo Dalot right-footed against Mo Salah, against Henderson, against Trent. That right-hand side dynamic was back. It is. But I wanna kind of talk about this Salah, Henderson, Trent axis a little bit more, because my God, it's gorgeous. You have 3 players, you have 3 channels. Who's gonna be where at any point is moot, because no matter how hard you try, you will have Mo Salah hugging the touchline, Trent central, Henderson helping Salah out. Trent will drift into the phase of attack, and then all of a sudden you'll have Trent hugging the touchline, Salah on the inside, Henderson in the half space, and then you find Henderson releasing Trent. He'll zip one into the area. Someone will try to find a tap and it'll go out for a corner. You'll have Henderson releasing Salah for a shot from the edge of the area. You'll have Salah releasing Henderson for a cross into the area. That happens a lot too. Anyone can be anywhere within any given time. The problem then Man United have, Ralph Rangnick, that is a possibility that they do that. And if not, then you have the best attacking fullback in the world in Trent Alexander-Arnold. One of the best players, period, in the world in Salah. He's back, operating their right-hand side. So you cover the left with a completely out-of-form Harry Maguire and a right back at left wing back, and then Nemanja Matic on that side of midfield as well. And what's even worse is that Sadio Mane dropped into that space, into that right hand side area, and then turned and boop, because Harry Maguire never. Harry Maguire, this is a moment I think that sums up his confidence. He just needs to get the season done with, go home, relax for a month or two, not think about the sport, come back and start getting hungry, and actually like look forward to games, because he looked like a statue. Harry Maguire, he looked soulless. And I'm kind of starting to feel sorry for him, because if you're in any profession and you're performing that badly, it has to be difficult. He presses Sadio Mane, but he half does it, half cooks it, because he never really commits too much, so he never closes him down. One of the problems with a high press is that you leave space in behind. Well, first of all, you need to have someone to cover for you. So we'll get to the Man United midfield as well. Everything leads to the other. But he half presses, so he never really gets close to Sadio Mane at all and leaves all the space behind him. So Trent and Salah, it's a remarkable scene in the 5th minute, both dashing down the right, and whoever gets the ball first gets it. Salah ends up crossing it in for it to happen for Luis Diaz. Now, the midfield. In a normal circumstance, you have one of two things. You have Phil Jones central. If Harry Maguire presses up, Phil Jones will drop into the space Harry Maguire leaves. Victor Lindelof will shift as the right centre back. Or you have Nemanja Matic like dropping in between Phil Jones and Victor Lindelof. So you know what I mean? Harry Maguire is pressing high, and then you have players plugging each other's holes that they leave with the press. The problem is Matic doesn't run. Phil Jones hasn't played for months, and he's played twice in 3 years, so he's not like accustomed to defensive tactics at all. So it's only natural that he never really knew what to do, I guess, in that instance. And because the play was so quick, he didn't have a good read of the game. And Nemanja Matic just doesn't run. Who's the midfield partner with Nemanja Matic? Paul Pogba. An attacking midfielder who doesn't run. Nice. And Liverpool had a midfield of Thiago, Fabinho, Henderson, Sadio Mane, false 9. I can't believe it. I couldn't believe the starting lineup. Maybe there was a case to be made for the back three. Kind of man marking, everyone gets to have one of the forwards, and then wing backs kind of like Wan-Bissaka can double up with Lindelof on Luis Diaz. Harry Maguire can double up with Mo Salah. Can double up with Dalot on Mo Salah. Things like that. Matic could help out there too. Like maybe there was a dynamic there where each attacker gets a defender or is assigned someone. That just wasn't the case. And the problem is, I don't even think the changes were forced, as everyone seemed to allude to, especially Ralf Rangnick at Rangnick is the correct pronunciation there, at the end of the game. Because on the bench, you did have Scott McTominay. Now, I don't know if there is anything to do with a slight injury. He's coming back. He's not fully fit to start. What the problem is there. But you could have started a back four. You could have started Wan-Bissaka, right back. Telles, left back. Maguire and Lindelof, centre backs. And then you could have had a perfectly fine midfield three. Pogba as your playmaker. And Matic and McTominay as your two holding midfielders. And rather than press high and rely on legs, your system relies on your forwards defending anyway. Maybe you could have had Jesse Lingard start for Rashford. Start Bruno Fernandes as a false 9. Get him dropping in. Have Elanga and Lingard running. Lingard is a workhorse. Lingard could have helped defensively. There's so much more that he could have done with the players on the bench. Even starting Eric Bailly in place of Phil Jones. Phil Jones was the wrong decision. Just because of how little he plays. And because this is the best team in the world. they're playing against. It's a fascinating. Like this is one of the instances where I want to get into someone's brain to see how they think. It's crazy. What else he's discussing here? Thiago Alcantara is the best midfielder in the world right now, alongside Luka Modric. I'm a sucker for playmakers. Thiago's finally reached the level that we thought he'd be at from the start, with his arrival last season. That is Thiago. That's the Thiago we've been waiting for now. The front three scoring, great. Salah's back, fantastic. The pass from Sadio Mane to Salah's the second goal. So the first for Salah, excuse me, was a genius. It was genius. It was one of the passes of the season. And I'll sound like I'm talking hyperbole, but the reality of the matter is Liverpool had one of their best performances in years. And that says a lot because we've had a lot of them, a lot of really good performances. Against Man United themselves, first game was 5-0, crying out loud. And Man United, this is the worst Man United version I've ever seen in my entire life. And that says a lot too because of how bad they've been for 5 years. So that's the worst display by Man United in every way. Discipline-wise, coaching-wise, defensively, offensively, they couldn't string a pass together. I think there was like 11 Liverpool players that had more touches than anyone from Man United. I'm looking right now at the starting 11s on SofaScore. It's remarkable. So, like, if you've ever been on SofaScore, you have one side, you have ratings, and as the rating gets higher and higher, it goes from red to green with orange and yellow in between. One side is green, one side is orange and red. It's insane. And I don't trust in those ratings a lot, but that says a little bit of something. That says a little bit of something. Liverpool are on for the quadruple. Maybe the day this episode drops, Man United will drop points to Brighton. Who knows at this point? Who knows? Man City are off of a bad FA Cup semi-final, as we'll discuss in this next section very, very shortly now. I think I've said everything I wanted to say about this game. Just Liverpool are the best team in the world, and it's a privilege to get to watch them twice a week. It's insane. And Man United need a big reset. And that's it. Now on to the rest of the episode. And more Liverpool, more Liverpool love fest. But yeah, sorry, we've had two insane games, so excuses for that. But yeah, on with the rest of the show, I guess. Enjoy.
Joined by George and Ali. We were supposed to be joined by Fergal, but he's rather shattered tonight, so we've given him the night off. He's been worked pretty hard recently, carrying the flak for particularly me. I've not been here much. George comes in and out, so him and Ali have been carrying a little bit. Ali's back. How you doing, mate?
I came off a weekend where I've watched some of the best football I've ever seen in my life in that Liverpool.
Oh, must be nice, mate. Must be nice.
It must be. It is.
Must be nice.
So yeah, it's, just another JAFP derby in the final.
Yeah, we'll get on to that. We'll get on to that, mate.
Sure.
Touched on it nicely. George, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, very well, thank you, very well. I didn't watch the best football of my life, but it was good to see a win in the FA Cup. So, yeah.
Again, must be nice. Must be nice, lads. That's all I'm going to say. We'll get to that later on. I suppose we'll start with the standout fixture of the weekend yet again. Funny how the fixtures have fallen, literally back to back.
Oh, yeah.
Another Manchester City-Liverpool showdown. And this is really interesting, this game, because going into it, maybe in years gone past, you kind of would have said the opposite in terms of both have really good 11s, but Man City have more depth. And I think going into this one, probably for the first time, given the signings Liverpool made in the summer and then in January, and then when you look at the Man City squad, it's looking a bit light and they've got a few injuries. I think for the first time I looked at it, I thought, and Liverpool rotated against Benfica as well, whereas Man City had to, dig in and dig out a 0-0 draw to get through in the Champions League. Yeah. So I thought Liverpool were favourites going into it. Ali, I don't know how you sort of felt confidence-wise, but I expected them to win. I didn't expect them to be 3-0 up at half-time, however.
Me neither.
So, yeah, I mean, some of your thoughts.
I felt better about it than the weekend. Just because I know
Last week, you mean?
than last weekend. Yeah, I felt better than last weekend, just because I know they will have put more into their Champions League fixtures than us, and so we would be physically, I guess, more prepared, more fresh. Then I saw the lineup. I'm like, this will work out. Zach Steffen in goal, Nathan Ake at center back. And Nathan Ake at center back. Shout out Kareem, my twin brother. I texted him right after I saw the lineup. I told him, watch a corner kick goal go in for Liverpool this game. And in the 8th minute, guess what happens? 3 in a row for Ibrahima Konate. Not to like blow smoke up my ass. Is that the phrase? Ugh,
yeah. You got that one, mate.
Yeah, cool.
I remembered.
Nice. So because the average height of the Man City lineup was like outstandingly poor, or poor. I mean, we're all short here, so no shame in being short, but they aren't tall. Like set piece situations overall one of the best in the country, so that was a source of danger straight away. And then we scored in the 8th minute. I think from that moment we just had complete control of the first half. Complete control.
Yeah.
Fernandinho struggled in a similar way to Fabinho in the last weekend, in terms of just getting outrun comprehensively. The difference, I think, is with Fabinho having more protection is the pressing structure for Liverpool, and that happened, like that was apparent in the second goal. There were 2 pressing triggers: Zach Steffen, Nathan Ake, the 2 outstanding, bench players that were starting in the lineup. But especially Steffen, every time he had the ball, he seemed to be in trouble. The press from Liverpool it seemed like they had a plan of putting everything into first half, getting as much out of it as possible, and that's what we got. Exactly what we got, because Sadio Mane and Luis Diaz and Mo Salah to a big extent. The worker they put into that press and the organization of where and how to time the run and the angle of the runs, given the orientation of the back line for City, was just astonishing, and I don't think it's been talked about enough. They never found a way out. And Zach Steffen immediately makes that mistake for the 3rd goal, so they have to then get Fernandinho to drop all the way back to Zach Steffen to play their way out. So rather than have a 2 and then Fernandinho anchor in a goal kick situation, or a situation where Zach Steffen has the ball, Nathan Ake has to go further left because Fernandinho will then partner John Stones as a center back too. So the midfield gets a bit more vacated. So you have someone dropping in place of Fernandinho, someone dropping in place of Jack Grealish, who might be dropping in place of Fernandinho. You know what I mean? So the domino effect means that they don't have any build-up going for them. I just loved it. I just loved the pressing in every sense. This game, first half especially.
And I wouldn't want to dumb it down to simply who wanted it more, but there's certainly a case of, you look at the first, goal, Konate, he wanted it more. He certainly leapt higher than Ake. I know physically a lot stronger,
and so much like he's 5 inches taller than Ake, I think.
Yeah. So absolutely dominated in the air, but he attacked the ball, and Mane attacking the ball when the keeper's got it. And I suppose, obviously, this is classic Klopp side, pressing extremely high. But it's also a matter of, Liverpool running constantly, and wanting the ball, wanting to press. I did feel that they were weak in the second half, and there were a number of chances that City did get. They're certainly not impenetrable, Liverpool moving forward. And that's why, obviously, if we're talking about the title race, it could be extremely close with somehow City lacking depth, and like Harry alluded to, I'm not entirely sure where it's come from, especially with all their spend and historically having that rotation. But it's going to be a really interesting title battle, and it was a really interesting game with Liverpool clearly coming out on top and deservedly going through.
I think the lack of depth comes from a perception that at the start of the season you had their anchor men were Rodri and Fernandinho, both world class. Fernandinho's age just starting to catch up a little bit. Rodri's starting every single game, so when he's out and Fernandinho steps in, then it becomes a big drop off. Unfortunately, for Fernandinho, of course. And then Nathan Ake is a massive height downgrade. That's one of the main issues, is that they had no chance in the air.
Yeah.
Quality too. I don't rate Ake particularly highly.
Me either.
I always
think...
look at him and
go on.
Well, they paid 50 million for him, and I always kind of look at that
Overpriced,
transfer
yes.
and think it wasn't a particularly good one by their standards. I suppose they have wasted money, but that was that was one I looked at and I thought, not sure where they've got that from, to be fair. But I think you're right. I think they preyed on weaknesses. Ake was one. The goalkeeper was one. I love that second goal from Mane.
Yeah,
I love goals like that. Aubameyang
Yeah.
done one of those a couple of seasons ago away to Watford, where the keeper was just taken to, I think it was Ben Foster, and he just absolutely just charged him down and got a deflect. And it's not luck. This is the thing.
No,
like,
not at all. No.
It boils down to anticipating it and putting yourself right there and blocking it, and it's in. And Mane's one was even better because it was like a tackle. It wasn't even like he kicked it into me. He literally just slid in the ball away. It was fucking great.
I saw a tweet. I don't know who tweeted it, but it came to my mind now. It's like the stats providers are now panicking and trying to figure out how to factor XG into tackles.
I was looking at that because I thought Liverpool only had 4 shots in the first half, and obviously that's not going to include Mane tackling the ball into the net from like a yard out. So yeah, I mean it's. All the stuff they put into data now, I'm sure they could find a model that gets that stuff in there.
Yeah. There's historic data now as well. Mane tackling Stefan, Aubameyang tackling Ben Foster, whoever it was.
Yeah, there's a few. No, there's a few, mate. I mean, it could have happened last weekend as well. Obviously, in the corresponding fixture, Edison got away with it. Stefan didn't get away with it. Just tells you the quality drop off, maybe. I want to just touch on Thiago, Ali, because a lot of Liverpool fans were raving about his performance. Was this one where you kind of see the importance and kind of the difference he makes when he starts the midfield with Fabinho rather than some of the other options you've had at various points this season?
Yes.
Is the short answer.
He is transformative. So what we used to have is a midfield 3 of craftsmen. So in our Champions League run in 2017,
it was like Henderson, Milner, Wijnaldum.
Yeah, these are all like pressed to hell, but they're not like the. I mean, Milner had 10 assists that season.
No, but the quality came from the fullbacks, right?
Yeah,
which it has done.
It did,
and also continues to do. But
the caveat behind Milner's 10 assists is that we scored in just a freakish number of goals. Like we had a 5 against Roma, and then there are 7-2-0, 2-7-0 score lines. So that kind of might have been skewed somehow. I don't remember exactly when he got his assists, but never mind. The point is, we lacked a playmaker. Someone who can like offload, like someone that can chest it down under pressure from 2, turn around and just like one with the outside of the boot, release it right into the feet of Trent Alexander-Arnold. Nobody had that quality, and it hurt us sometimes. We couldn't break, good defensive organizations, if that makes sense. Good defensive structures. Yeah, just because we didn't have anybody to spot those passes. All our hope was Firmino. Firmino doesn't start nowadays because we have the playmaker. Firmino is a bit of a playmaker too.
Built though, doesn't that?
Exactly. So yeah, he has been. I think why he struggled at the start, obviously injuries, but because he was played as a deep line playmaker at the start. His best role is this. This is the best Liverpool team. This is the best Liverpool midfield now.
Keita, Fabinho, Thiago. You think
Yeah,
that
Keita
three?
Fabinho Thiago
I've
is
seen
the
a lot
most
of people saying
balanced.
that.
It's the most balanced. It's got the most complete skill set. You have Fabinho's ball winning abilities, obviously a good passer too. Thiago's our primary playmaker. Naby Keita's just an absolute engine. It just
Mm.
combines everything you want from a midfield right
Do-
there. And then our forwards are very deliberately compact with the midfield to speed up the ball progression. But Thiago also
Yeah,
has the ability to just spread it wide to someone, or slide one into. Let's say Diogo Jota when he scored against Arsenal at the Etihad just a few games ago.
at the
Um,
Etihad.
the Etihad at the Emirates. I confused the
Yeah.
two.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of thing. Those kinds of line breaking passes that we
Do you think?
probably never seen before since Gerrard.
Do you think, just to kind of extrapolate what you've set out a bit further, do you think this is actually your best 11 when you look at? I think because obviously you can change the centre backs and you can obviously change the configuration of the front three. You've said you think it's the best midfield.
Mm-hmm.
Is this 11 at the moment the best that you've got? Do you think, or is there anything you change, or is it opponent specific?
Okay, if it is opponent specific, I thought Firmino should start. I thought Firmino should have started last week because
Instead of
of
who?
instead
Well,
of
this Jota last week, I assume.
so Jota last week and probably
Diaz in
Mane
this
this
one,
week or Salah this
really?
week. Salah, I would say Salah just because of how off form he is. So my
Mm.
front three would have been Mane, Firmino, Luis Diaz. But Firmino's it doesn't matter who you start on the wings. It did matter to me who started in the center, and I was wrong.
Yeah.
But I thought Firmino, especially with this backline starting and with Nathan Ake having the weaknesses that he has, it would have been easy to, you know how Harry Kane does it for Tottenham, where he occupies a defender who drops all the and then drops all the way into his own midfield, so that that defender is just completely taken out of the game, and then you have an easy gap to play in behind. Um,
Yeah.
just like we saw in City's loss against Tottenham 3-2.
Yeah. Don't remind me, please.
Yeah, of course. Have reminded me of a few instances that are not in Arsenal's
I know.
favor
I know.
there. Sorry,
That's all right, mate, don't
these
worry.
are the best examples. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I thought Firmino, just because he has that tendency to drop off and is good at finding pockets of space. First of all, to occupy in midfield and then release passes to the runners. Yeah, I just thought Firmino should start. In terms of the center back, it really is a toss up between Konate and Matip. Konate is just faster, that's all. And in the air now, apparently, is our best player. Scoring a 3 in a row is kind of no joke.
George, must be nice to be into an FA Cup final, mate. Chelsea, I mean,
Yeah.
less spectacular, but it's a banana skin. You know, they put the disappointment of last week's Champions League exit firmly behind them, and got the job done against Palace. I mean, I don't know, Palace are a good team. I mean, we took 1 point off them this season. They're a good outfit. It's their big day out.
Yeah.
And Chelsea did a good job of keeping it quite solid. I thought, nothing spectacular by any means, but they did what they had to do, nullified them pretty well, got in front, and never looked like giving up really.
Yeah, fantastic to spoil the party. Everyone loves an underdog, so really,
Yeah.
really happy we got through it. To be honest, I think it shows at the moment that Chelsea almost seem to be a bit lost. There's no one really speaking about Chelsea because we're out.
No,
of
it's a
the
weird
title
one,
race,
isn't it, to assess?
out of the Champions League. But I mean, the performance against Real Madrid, I think shows that going into next year, we can compete with Liverpool and City. It will be difficult, but I don't think we're completely out of the question. Maybe outsiders, definitely outsiders in terms of a title race, just purely because of consistency. But we do have a really good squad. I mean, we spent a lot of money. You'd hope so. It's really nice. It must be nice to see Mason Mount and Ruben Loftus-Cheek and Reece James performing really well recently.
Mm-hmm.
Having sort of that English core is something that it's nice to get behind. Really, really solid. And Mason Mount's been absolutely superb this year. And considering a lot of people are saying he's had a bad year and potentially, he's had a few games where he's gone missing a little bit, but his goal goal involvements are really crucial. Really,
Yeah,
really
all
crucial.
his
I know
goal
he's
involvements against
stat-padded.
Norwich and Watford,
Yeah,
and
stat-padded a little
he's
bit.
had some good ones recently. That was the thing for me. Someone pointed it out to me a couple of weeks ago. It was like Mason Mount had something like 12 goals contributions in the league or whatever it was, and it was like 9 of them were against Norwich and Watford because he got a hat trick against Norwich, then he got a couple against Watford, I think.
Yeah.
But he played well in the week and he scored in an FA Cup semi-final, and he is a very important player for you. I just want to pick up on one thing you said there in terms of this getting to a FA Cup final and what you did against Real Madrid, showing that you compete with Man City and Liverpool. I think your 3 games against Liverpool this season show that as well. In the 3 games, you've been competitive in all of them, and arguably been the better team in all of them. If any team edged it, I think Chelsea were better at Anfield in the first half, went down to 10 men. I think they were better at Stamford Bridge in the first half and gave 2 silly goals away. And I think the cup finals, is a bit difficult to assess because there was kind of a lot going on. But there was chances at either end. I mean, Mason Mount, speaking of him, should have scored, really, if we're being honest. He should have had at least one goal
Definitely.
that day, probably multiple.
Yeah.
So I think the point is that you can compete with those sides across 90 minutes. I think where it's more difficult, and we've seen it, is across 38 games in the league, do they have the consistency week to week to just... Because these 2 teams, Man City and Liverpool, have shown it in seasons gone by that they can just rattle off win after win after win. Chelsea hadn't shown that to me. And it was why I was a bit reluctant to put them up there at the start of the season. I thought they'll definitely be at least the 3rd best team, and they'll probably do well in the Champions League and in the cups because they're a good cup team.
Yeah.
I think the next step for them is to plug gaps, because I think what we've seen is a few injuries have derailed the league form. I think Chilwell was a big one in particular.
Yeah, definitely.
And when you miss key players, it's difficult. The striker situation hasn't been ideal with Lukaku. But I think that's the next step, is like finding that consistency week to week to be able to go and get 85 plus points.
Absolutely.
Because that's what you're going to need, I think, to compete with the 2 sides that you're
absolutely.
hoping to catch. And I think the manager's good enough. It's just giving him the right players. I think Chelsea, it's going to be interesting because of the ownership stuff, and it's obviously still up in the air. But I think whoever you get, you're not going to be able to just sign a player like Lukaku, doesn't work for a season, write him off, okay, we'll just get someone else. I think there needs to be more thought. There needs to be more of recruiting for a style. I think you maybe need to lean on Tuchel a bit more for that. Because I never got the feeling it was a Tuchel signing, if I'm honest. I don't know if you felt differently, George, but it didn't feel like he was the one driving that. It very much felt like Chelsea needed a striker. Lukaku's ripping it up. It was a no-brainer at the time. And, they're obviously going to pay whatever they can to get him. But it's going to be interesting to see what they do in the summer in terms of how is their recruitment strategy going to change, if at all, because I think it will need to.
I'd absolutely agree with that, especially sort of given Lukaku's history with Chelsea. He never left with on bad terms. He left to a smaller side, which is obviously always preferable. When you're selling a player like that, and it just seemed natural for him to come home, as we would perceive it, especially what he says was obviously his boyhood club as well, English club. So yeah, I don't know if that was a Tuchel signing, rather a perfect Chelsea signing, as it were. And so that's sort of what drove that. And I'm not too concerned about the takeover. I agree, we can't spaff money up the wall. We're going to have to be a lot more astute. We're going to have to be a lot more clever. But I think that might benefit us in terms of we're going to put a lot more resources into finding those players, and we can't get it wrong, and therefore there's an incentive to get it right and not to overpay. And Chelsea might become one of these clubs where we're not forced to overpay. City, Man United, they
and you in the
Chelsea,
past,
now being forced to overpaying wages as well. I'd love us to fix that wage structure. Callum Hudson-Odoi on far too much money. And that's why it's key for, we alluded to it and we can speak about it on another episode, but wage structures in the club are really important to keep players happy, but also to stop things spiraling out of control. And that's why the Salah situation is so interesting. But with Chelsea, we need a few more additions. I know that's ridiculous.
No, it's true. You do see it.
I
think what you've seen this season is to go the distance. Because you were there for the first, 15 games. And I think it was only kind of like the start of January, probably that fixture with Liverpool. And I think you lost to Man City a couple of games later. And that was kind of it for the league. And that is the thing. A few draws at home, which is what I think it was with Chelsea. They drew a few home games in December
Yeah.
and then lost to City. That's it. That's enough to like put you in a position where you have to then do what Liverpool have had to do, which is win pretty much every single game this calendar year to even have a chance. And I think that's the harsh reality of it is you do need a squad that has the depth and the quality to churn results out every single week. And as much as you've got a very good squad and you've got a squad that I think competes in all facets of the game over 90 minutes, to get that week to week is kind of a different task altogether. Like I've said this multiple times. I think it's more difficult to win the Premier League in its current like iteration than it is to win the Champions League. No doubt in my mind. Chelsea finished fourth last season, and I know like Lampard was there for 2/3 of it, but even in Tuchel's time domestically, they weren't very good in the league. They were quite patchy and kind of stumbled to fourth. Whereas in the Champions League, they were really good and deserved to win all the games that they did. So I think that's the ultimate test for Chelsea is can they add to their squad in the summer and get it into a position where it's ready to go the distance, because that's going to be a challenge, no doubt.
And look, to I guess to finish, I don't know if finish my point. If Chelsea don't win the FA Cup this year, it's been a bad year. It's been a total failure with the money we spent, trophyless, third in the league. It's we haven't really pushed the title race either. If we were amongst, they're still competing now, and we went out to the Champions League to Real Madrid, I wouldn't be, obviously I'd be pretty content. But we've not been there. We've not been at the races on a lot of games, and really with the investment and a really quality manager, we should be doing better. I'm sure he'd admit that himself. I don't think we should sack Tuchel, by the way.
No.
Even if we lose the FA Cup, I hate this sort of trigger gun, a trigger finger approach where you just fire someone because you perceive it to be the short term, and really there's no contingency plans. Like who is better on the market right now than Thomas Tuchel?
Exactly.
No one,
unless you're going to Klopp.
Well, Klopp or Pep.
What realistic option is? It's not just who is definitely better than him, and I'm sure there is someone like in an ideal world, if you could look into the future and go, yeah, he would come in and do it, but there's no one that is obviously out there.
No.
So it's just a no-brainer for me. You back him. I think he's been great throughout the whole ownership stuff. I think he speaks well. I think you see as well the players respond to him. Like he was furious after that Real Madrid first leg. He was livid, and he promised a reaction, and you got one. You beat Southampton 6-0, and then you went to the Bernabeu and were 3-0 up, and on another night you would have gone through. So he delivers. He like in all facets. He's everything you want in a manager. I think it's about just giving him what he needs to succeed next season, which I'm sure they will, to be honest with you.
I had a question about your lineup there, because Reece James and Azpilicueta started like the opposite of what I would have expected.
He's done that before, hasn't he? He did that in the FA Cup final last year to Leicester.
I think he did it in the Champions League against Porto as well. I could be wrong.
Do you think
he's definitely done it before, though?
Do you think that's how he would start against Liverpool? Because I would think, like, to get into some preview here.
Yeah, we can quickly do that. Yeah, let's do that quickly then.
I would think that would be a bit dangerous, putting Reece James up against directly Luis Diaz.
I think that's more compared. I think Reece James is a fantastic. I think we underrate Reece James's defensive abilities. He was perfect against Real Madrid. He, for a large number of the, time of the game, he pocketed Vinicius Junior. He was fantastic against Benzema when he faced up. I think against the front three, he'd actually be a much better fit than Azpilicueta, who's a lot slower. Yes, his defensive positioning might be slightly better. But I can see him doing Ruben Loftus-Cheek right wing back and Reece James right centre back. I can't see Azpilicueta starting.
Interesting, because I would 100% start Azpilicueta right centre back and Reece James.
No, I just don't
just
think
to match Robertson for pace as well in attacks.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. Well, it's more that I think he'll learn from Man City not having that physicality, and Reece James, very physical player, not necessarily the tallest, but particularly quick.
Yeah.
And then Ruben Loftus-Cheek, quicker than Azpilicueta. He's also a lot better technically, and he's sort of somewhat being led into that right wing back role, and it'd be interesting to see. I'd rather not start Aspilicueta.
Interesting. And Timo Werner, does he start every game now?
Yeah, he does. Yeah, over Lukaku, he certainly does. He just offers runs, and I can see him getting in behind is going to be a real threat for against Liverpool. Whether he can score is a different question. Yeah.
Oh, he did. He did score a great goal against Real Madrid. Like that was a good goal. Like the finish is a bit lucky, but
We spoke about the finish. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what he does. He
keeps
does
getting
make
in there, doesn't he?
You got to give him that. He don't. No, he does. He is involved at least, right? Like he's not. As a defender, he will at least occupy like in your head, you're thinking like he will run in behind. You've got to be wary of what he's doing. He's not just someone that physically doesn't compete and doesn't score. At least he will run in behind. He will stretch defenses. I don't think he's been what Chelsea wanted when they paid 50 million for him. But once he's there, you've got to use him, particularly when the other guy's not firing either. And I think Tuchel's done that, and he did it last season actually in the Champions League as well. So it's good. It's good management. Promises to be a great game between Chelsea and Liverpool.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's I can't really pick who I want to win because I don't really want Liverpool to do the quadruple, but then I can't really root for Chelsea in a cup final. So I hope they all lose and everybody goes home. And
just watch as a neutral, Harry. Just enjoy.
Oh man, I can't watch a game as a neutral. I need a vested interest in it.
Come on.
But yeah, promises to be a great game. We'll have a preview for that closer to the time. But for now, we'll move on.
Welcome back. We've swapped roles, myself and Harry, for this one.
Yeah.
For this bit. Because Harry has promised us, given Arsenal's recent questionable form to say the least, he's promised us a bit of a few words on Mikel Arteta. So it's fascinating, Harry.
You might need the bleep machine for this one.
No, not really. Try to limit it. I can't edit too much. Time is. I'll
try and keep this PG. I just want to read out a few stats for you guys, right? Orbinho's had an absolute field day on Twitter over the weekend, given some of our recent form.
Oh, the floor is yours.
Just going to read a few of these out for you to just, marvel at. Arsenal have lost their last 3 Premier League matches in a row. Their record for consecutive defeats in the Premier League is 4 in a row. We play Chelsea on Wednesday, so... Well,
yikes!
And then it's Man United after that, so yeah, it's not getting any easier. This is the first time since 83-84 that we've lost 3 league games in a row twice in a season. We obviously kicked off the season with 3 losses.
Yep.
This is the second time that we've lost 3 consecutive Premier League games, and it's the first time it's happened in the Premier League era. As I mentioned, the previous time was 83-84. Crystal Palace hadn't won a home game in 2022. Hashtag Hello Arsenal. Brighton had won none of their last 7 games, drawn 1, lost 6. Hashtag Hello Arsenal. Southampton had won none of their last 6 games and lost their last 4 home games. Hashtag Hello Arsenal. Arsenal have conceded 8 shots from the last 14 on target faced. No Arsenal striker has scored from open play in an away league fixture this season. We're into the 31st game week. That's just some of the grim readings for you recently. Now, I just want to quickly touch on something as well today. Arsenal club captain Alexandre Lacazette coming out with a statement that he wants to play Champions League football next season. Obviously, he's out of contract at the end of the season. We want to play Champions League football as well, mate. But we're struggling at the moment. And part of the reason we're struggling is because you are on the same amount of non-penalty goals as the current Burnley interim manager, mate. So I just want to point that out for people. Ben Mee took charge in the dugout for Burnley on Saturday. He has as many goals Sunday. He has as many goals in the league this season from open play as Lacazette does, which is 3. Pitiful, quite frankly, from him. If you go onto Understat and you order goal scorers this season in terms of non-penalty goals, you'll find Mr. Lacazette on page 11. There are 102 players in front of him. So I'm not sure quite where he thinks he's going to be going and playing Champions League football next year. I'd like to play in the
Villarreal
Champions.
when they
I'd
win the
like to play in the
Champions
Champions League
League.
next year. Yeah, to be fair, Villarreal is the North London graveyard. They've got Emery there, they've got Coquelin, they've got, I think, Lo Celso and Aurier. Who's the other one? Etienne Capoue, Juan Foyth. They're loving it over there. So maybe. God, yeah. So that's just to kind of set the scene for what's been going on recently. It's not been great. Um, I said I'd talk about Arteta. He really irritated me this weekend, actually. He irritated me with this constant need to overthink things. And it's something that's happened in the last couple of games. So he did it against Brighton, and this didn't make the edit because we had a few editing problems, just to throw that out there for the listeners. So I'll repeat what I said. He goes Galaxy Brain. If we have a player missing, instead of just putting the replacement in there and accepting, okay, you're going to be weaker in one area, he tries to make the weak area in his mind less weak by moving another player, in this case it's Xhaka, into left back, and then putting a worse midfielder in and playing a one-man pivot. It makes no sense to me. You weaken more parts of the team. And then this week, he did play at left back in Tavares, which was a good start, and he actually had quite a good game, as happened. But he decided to switch Saka onto the left and Martinelli onto the right. Basically, in my mind, at least what I think it was, is Saka's going to give you more defensive cover. He's played left back and left wing back, so he's more defensively reliable. It didn't work, and he changed it at half time again. He changed the Xhaka at left back thing at half time last week against Brighton. I just want to look at his post-game comments from the weekend as well, because they really, really irritated me. My eyes don't deceive me. I know what I'm watching, right? We had 45 minutes of dead possession in the second half, okay? It was a momentum bar, which I don't think I've ever seen before. Southampton, fresh off a thumping from Chelsea, basically decided Timo Werner ran in behind quite a lot last week, so we're not going to play high like we usually do. We're going to sit deep, defend the box, make him break us down. And we didn't. So Arteta coming out with stuff like, if you didn't know the score, you would think we'd... Well, people know the score, mate. They scored a goal. We didn't score a goal. We had one big chance all game. So let's not pretend this was some miscarriage of justice. We didn't play well enough on the day. You know, and he's talking about basketball. And this reminds me of last season when he was talking about... And this is when you come on the podcast, first of all, Ali, when we talk about putting crosses into the box. Yeah. And he's talking about it's just numbers and statistics, and if you do it enough times, it's going to work. Well, no, mate. I'm going to give you a little nugget of information. Have you ever heard the saying, doing the same thing over and over again, it's the first sign of madness? You're not going to get different results. So I just don't understand some of the stuff he's coming out of. I think he's getting quite defensive. And I also have this worry, and I've had it all season, that he requires the perfect set of conditions to actually get results. So when you think about his Arsenal tenure, he's basically been able to come in with pretty low expectations. Let's be frank, we were doing dreadfully when he came in. So I think that's given him a bit of like leverage in terms of expectations are low, and so you're able to kind of stay there for a bit, rather than if we were, I don't know, battling for the top four and he came in and finished 8th back to back, he probably wouldn't be in a job anymore. So he's benefited from that. And then when you actually look at it, he only ever seems to be able to get results when he can get his 11 on the pitch. He doesn't show a malleability. He doesn't show an ability to work with players that aren't, in his mind, ideal. That's not a strength of a manager. When I look at other managers in the league, and you look at the top managers, what they're able to do is when they have a couple of key players missing, you manage whoever you're bringing into the team. You might tinker a couple of things, but you don't notice it. At least not to the extent which I've seen in the last 3 games. We've lost 3 games to 3, they're not bad teams, but if you want to be a top side, if you want to be a top side, you can't have all these stats that I've just read off about haven't done this since 1985 and haven't done this in the Premier League era and worst run since this and worst run since that. And he's had a lot of this since he's come to Arsenal, not just this season, last season, the season before. He's set a lot of negative records. And so he's on a sticky wicket for me. They certainly should not be extending his contract. He's got 1 year left.
Yeah.
I don't see any reason why we should be giving him a new contract. It's not like we're going to be batting off offers from Real Madrid, Barcelona and Man City for his signature, I think he's shown that he can build a team. He does have an idea, but that's not all there is to being a manager. What manager gets the perfect set of conditions within which to work from week to week. It's all about adapting and making the best of stuff. And I haven't seen him do that. So huge question marks for me. Huge question marks. And I'm not being overreactionary because I actually think that had he been sacked at the end of last season, he couldn't have had any complaints. Back to back 8 finishes, going out the Europa League to the manager that you sacked in the season before because he wasn't good enough. And he wasn't, by the way. I'm not being revisionist. We were right to sack Emery. Arteta couldn't have complained if he was sacked. So he's in trouble for me. And one more thing. I'm sick to death of this first goal wins bullshit every single fucking week. If we score first, we win, and if we don't, we lose.
That's
and
true.
It's not good enough. 17 times this season, we've won. 16 of them have come when we've scored the first goal. You look at that from the opposite side. We've gained 4 points from losing positions this season. One team has done worse than that, Norwich, one of the worst teams of the Premier League era. So it's just not good enough, quite frankly, guys. I think that when you look at what Spurs did against Brighton, put in a really poor performance and opened the door for us to get back into the top 4 race, it's not good enough to then go out and produce that performance again and lose a 3rd game in a row. There's just too many things at the moment that I'm not liking from what I'm seeing. So, that's my rant over.
Well,
but
what a rant.
Yeah, but
Words well spoken.
one more
That was
thing.
good.
If I ever see Cedric Suarez take another free kick, I swear to fucking God, I will go to the training ground and give the set piece coach a solid thrashing because I don't understand it. He put one into the bottom of the wall last week, and this week he put one into the car park and he put another one into the side netting along the ground. It's rubbish. Stop it.
Maybe he's good at them in the training ground.
I don't care.
Well,
I do not care what he's doing in training. I honestly.
A more important
Reminds
question.
Yeah, go on.
What were you gonna say there?
I was gonna say it reminds me of Kane. Was it the Euros? Like
Yeah, the corner.
8 years ago.
That was Gary Neville's brainwave. That was.
Oh, just absolutely insane.
Dreadful.
It's insanity.
Remember when Phil Jones took a corner kick? That was weird. Another thing is, what's up with Arsenal and captaincy? Go.
Yeah, I mean it's madness, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
absolute
yes.
madness. I mean the Lacazette comments are just incredible when you think that he's been dreadful this season. And I know there's probably some frustration in terms of he's going at the end of the season. He can't have any complaints about that, by the way, because he certainly doesn't warrant a new deal, especially on 180 grand a week. Just be professional. Just get your head down and say, look, I'd love to, play Champions League football or whatever, but I have a contract here at Arsenal. We're going to do everything we can to finish the season strong and blah, blah, blah. And then whatever happens, happens. But you can't come out and say what he said. I mean, it's just unbelievably. I think at best you could say it's like poor judgment, but at worst it's kind of, it reeks of like sour grapes. They've probably told him, you're not getting a new deal. You look for a new club, and he's kind of gone out and gone, well, fuck you then. And that's just not. And this is the problem, by the way, that we presented ourselves by not signing him in January. We've then had to rely on Lacazette, who's out of contract, and Eddie Nketiah, who's out of contract, and both don't have any prospect of being offered a new deal. And that is not a position you want to be in, which is relying on out of contract players to get you the goals, to get you where you want to be next season. It's a really bad position to be in.
If you also if you're going to come out with that kind of statement, you do it when you've scored 3 on the bounce or you're in.
He has no position. He has no leverage.
It's outrageous. It's outrageous to be demanding Champions League football.
He's dreaming, mate. I want Champions League football. I want it. I want to play it. Give me a contract tomorrow. But it's like seriously, incredible, absolutely incredible. It's not over. There's a lot of the season still left, and we've butchered our easy games, so we're going to have to go and win back those points in some harder games. But if you're looking at odds of it all, it's not in our favour. As I said, we've got to go to Chelsea on Wednesday, and I think we'll lose. Then we've got Man United next weekend, and granted they're not a great side, but I'd rather be playing them in some sort of form. We're potentially going to be going in off the back of 4 straight losses. If he makes that 5 and loses to them. And then arguably, if we did lose to them, we're looking at odds on finishing below them. And you think how bad they've been. And we've had all this good stuff that's gone on this season and culture. And it's all great. We've played 1 game a week. And we threw the FA Cup as well. And he still potentially can't finish above the worst Man United team I've seen in my lifetime. They're a disgrace. So what does that say about him? And this is why I'm saying they've got to hold off on this contract stuff. He's got to earn it. He's not earned it yet.
And to be fair, the Arteta stuff has been very back and forth in terms of, is he doing well? Is he not doing well? Last season, he wasn't really. When you mentioned the point where I came on the podcast for the very first time, he had all this crossing going on and maths and stuff. That was a
Yeah.
dreadful time.
Yeah.
Didn't start the season very well, but then had a really good run, and now it's kind of starting to fade out again. And it's hard to, and the stat you say about the first goal wins, it basically is that it hasn't been all season. So you then have a long enough period of time, a good enough sample size, good enough grounds of evidence to say, has it worked? Really, has it?
Yeah, yeah. He's
There's
definitely...
enough there, as I said.
Absolutely.
There's certainly enough there. If he finished, I don't know, say we get sixth this season, right? We finish below Spurs and we finish below Man United, and we scrape into the Europa League. Which, to be honest with you, I look at it now and I think we're as likely to finish seventh as we are to finish fourth. Like both are probably outside chances. I think we're probably most likely to finish fifth, could finish sixth, and there's an outside chance we finish seventh. There's an outside chance we finish fourth. If he finished, say, sixth, they could, and they won't do this, by the way, because this would be them admitting they made a mistake of going down this route. They will not proactively sack him. He will have to lose his job. It will have to be untenable. But they could, in theory, pull him in and say, look, we've given you license. You spent 150 million in the summer, spent 100 million last summer. You've spent about 300 million since you've been here. We've given you license to bin whoever you wanted. We've had to pay out contracts and send players off on boats. He's been given a lot, and I don't like the ownership, and I don't think their ambitions have met the ambitions of the football club at times. But Arteta, is a rookie manager with no track record, he's been given as much as you could possibly be expected. He's been given as much as he could have expected to be given, probably more, if I'm honest. And so there's enough there where they could sack him, but they won't. They'll give him a new contract, and I think a lot of it hinges on what they do in the summer. Like, he has to build a squad, and then once it's his squad, he's got no excuses. I don't want any bullshit from him. So it's going to be interesting. And just to sort of move it on a bit, you've seen this week the ruthless nature of football with Burnley sacking Sean Dyche. And this is a guy that's been there 10 years and worked absolute miracles with nothing. He's kept a club that, to be honest with you, they're closer to League One standard than they are Premier League standard in terms of the actual net spend and what he's been given, the playing squad. They don't have any business being in the Premier League, let alone for how many years they've managed to do it back to back. And you've seen them make a big call on him. What do you guys make of that?
It makes me... Sorry, Ali, I'll let you go first.
Surprised a bit by the timing. I don't know what it changes, especially if you don't have a replacement lined up. Really, and
they don't,
with your
by the sounds of it.
Exactly. You had Ben Mee and the under-23's assistant manager, was it, or something like that? Take charge together in some weird dynamic. Ben Mee is part of the playing squad, so you're losing a player too. He's your captain.
Yeah, I don't get that. Is he injured? Because I don't understand that.
I thought it was a play manager. I thought it was
when I saw the statement, like the way it read, it almost read as if like, right, these guys are going to manage, and then like Ben Mee is the captain, so like he's kind of included in that group of responsibility or whatever. But he was literally on the touchline, so I didn't know if he was injured, and that was why it said that. Or as you said, that he's kind of being given a dual responsibility, and kind of as part of that, maybe being on the touchline takes precedent over being on the pitch, but then. He's probably one of the better players, at least from what I've seen. So
Ben Mee does have an injury.
Right, okay. That makes a lot more sense then.
He's been ruled out since the
that makes more sense. Go on, George. You let loose.
Oh, it makes me feel sick. This has really killed me. No, genuinely. One of the longest serving manager in the Premier League. He's done just so much for Burnley, and it's just the idea that. Firstly, they could bring in someone better in the Championship. I'm not sure if Dyche would have stayed, but he certainly seems like the kind of manager who would, given his loyalty in the past. Someone to bring them back up. There's no contingency plan whatsoever. It seems, like we said, with Ben Mee taking over. And if I know they've drawn against West Ham, let's not let's be frank about this. They got absolutely bullied by West Ham, and it was only for Nick Pope, who put on a fantastic display, that they got a point from that game. There was no, transformation within the squad at all. They
No,
just
look,
beaten.
what it seems like,
Yeah,
to me, and look, these things get left kind of up to, they leave it to speculation because obviously nothing's come out from the club other than to announce the sacking. There's not been much word from Dyche himself. There was no like statement thanking him. So you are kind of then led to believe there's been some sort of fallout, whether it be between him and the ownership or it's him and the players. Something must have happened because they've shown loyalty to him before. Like he did take them down, I think in 2015, and then he brought them back up. And as you've said, like if they do get relegated, which they're odds on to do, it's going to be difficult for them, I think, to make up 4 points on Everton. As bad as Everton are,
yeah,
that involves Burnley starting to win games, which they haven't really done all season. And they go into the Championship. Who are they going to get that's of the caliber of Dyche and kind of what he was able to achieve? It's difficult. It's difficult to see them making an appointment as good. It doesn't mean it's impossible, but it just seems a bit like a Hail Mary to me. I don't know if they're going to try and get an interim in to kind of get a bit of a bounce, and they're just desperate to stay up and kind of stay up at all costs, and kind of they've got comfortable being in the Premier League and kind of everything that comes with that. And as much as showing loyalty to a guy, you'd hope that you do that. It doesn't happen in football. I think we know that. So it smacks of desperation to me. I don't think it'll work.
yeah. But even so, desperation. I mean, you think about it logically. Unless you've genuinely got someone, unless you're bringing in. I mean, even bringing in Marcelo Bielsa or something like that, it would be completely different to the way you're playing now. So it'd be really difficult to transform the squad in such a small amount of time. But even if you brought in a world class manager, which they can't, they don't have the pulling power. They're Burnley.
No.
Let's be real here. They are Burnley. And no disrespect to the club, and it would be really nice to get on a Burnley fan their thoughts, but you're not a Premier League team. Despite being there for 6 years, you don't have the infrastructure, and so sacking a manager like Dyche I just think it's absolutely criminal, especially the loyalty he's given. It's not just about loyalty and romance as well. It's about he's been shown time and time again to get them out of these situations. He's still got games like Southampton. He's got 2 games against Aston Villa. He's got a game against Newcastle on the final day. That they're not unachievable results.
No, they're not.
Especially for a manager like Dyche. As for falling out of players, I just can't see it. I don't know why they would throw their toys out the pram. In this situation, if they do, they lack a certain amount of character that we've always attributed to a Dyche team, and a lot of the players that are there have been there for 3 or 4 years. So I just can't see that being the case. It's just it's a bizarre, and they've had to in terms of finances, they've had to, I think, I imagine, pay out the compensation of a 4-year contract as well, or whatever it was that they recently gave him. It's ludicrous. It's insane. I don't know what advisors Burnley have, but clearly not very good ones.
No, it doesn't seem very well thought out to me.
Not at all.
It like
Nope.
He won a game a week ago, right? Like they beat Everton, and
Everton,
like
big game.
they have been poor this season. There's no doubt. Like they've been worse than seasons gone by. Like we spoke about this last week. They're usually out of it by this point in the season, the relegation scrap. Whereas they are in the midst of it. They're chasing, right?
Yeah.
They have been poor. I think they've won like 6 of the last 41 games. I think it is under him. So like on performances, I can understand the argument that they need a change, but you have to look at it from a more holistic point of view than that. This is Burnley. This is Sean Dyche. And you have to consider everything that's kind of come previously, So I think it's strange. I don't think it'll work. But it remains to be seen, I suppose. I mean, Ali's probably hoping they relegate Everton.
I don't see it happening, so it's probably not.
No, exactly. Okay, we'll leave it there for this part. Bit of fantasy football after the break. Just another fantasy pick. Lads, we forgot to do it last week. Very professional of us.
Very.
So everybody got 0. we're going to pick for the midweek games.
Yeah.
Are we going to do the weekend ones as well? Because that's 2 separate game weeks, right?
I guess we could give the public a update on the weekend because a lot
Yeah. Okay.
of
Well, so
picks
we'll
will
do that separately.
Yeah,
but
there
we're
could be
gonna make
injuries
some
in that,
picks.
so
This is
wouldn't be
being
fair.
recorded Monday night.
Yeah.
Just for those that are unaware. So games to come in the week. You've got the likes of Man United, Liverpool. You've got Chelsea, Arsenal, Man City, Brighton. There's plenty of games in midweek, so we've got a lot to pick from. George, have you got one for us?
I do. I think I'm going to go Reece James, probably a clean sheet and an assist or a goal.
Definitely a clean sheet.
Liverpool.
We don't know where the goal is at the moment. Ali?
I've already gone Reece James, which I would have gone with, but Marcus Alonso.
Good shout. Virgil isn't here, but he did send us his pick in earlier, and he also went with Reece James, so very original from George there. I was going to go with a Chelsea player, but I don't want to make it a Chelsea clean sweep. So I'm going to go for a Liverpool player. Man United have a lot of injuries, and I think it could get ugly. We'll talk about Man United probably on next week's podcast because they've got us at the weekend as well. So they were pretty awful against Norwich too. So I think Liverpool are going to steamroll them, and I'm going to go with Trent.
What a shout!
There we go.
Nice.
So a little leap of faith in your boys there, Ali.
Yeah, and if others haven't listening to this and haven't been with us for the tournament, I've picked every Liverpool player possible throughout. So
you know what? We're running out of Liverpool players. Got plenty of Arsenal players. We don't go for those very much, but Liverpool players, Chelsea players to an extent.
Definitely don't go for Lacazette, do you?
Don't go for Lacazette. You're mad. You want your brains tested if you have a Lacazette. Yeah. So there are our picks. We'll have an update on the standings after next week. We'll make our picks in between as well for the weekend games. And plenty more to come. On that note, we'll leave it there for tonight. Thanks for joining me, lads, as always.
Appreciate it. That was a good rant, Harry. I enjoyed it. It was a good episode.
I hope the listeners enjoy it as well, mate.
Yeah.
Had to get it off my chest. Thanks for listening. It's been a pleasure as always, and we'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.